Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. And this is a very serious message. And I hope, and because I'm going to have to read some text here. And it shows the basis of the entire citizen disarmament movement, which is masquerading as common sense gun control. In 1996, the assault weapons ban was in place. And remember, it didn't sunset until I think 2008 or 2004. But Charles Krauthammer, who in 1996, April 5th, was a Republican right wing commentator. And he was well read and well written about a lot of things. But he published a piece called Disarm the Citizenry, but not yet. And he explains that, so I'm going to start reading a bit here, and please be with me because what he said was amazing that we should all consider. In an election year, you expect Washington to be full of phony arguments. But even a cynic has to marvel at the all-round phoniness of the debate over repeal of the assault weapons ban. Both sides are blowing smoke. The claim of the advocates that banning these 19 types of, quote, assault weapons, close quote, will reduce crime is laughable. The term itself is priceless. What are all the other guns in America's home arsenal? Encounter weapons? Crime-enabling devices? What? Dozens of other weapons, the functional equivalent of these, quote, assault weapons, close quote, were left off the list and are perfect substitutes for anyone bent on mayhem. On the other side, you have a Republican from New York demanding in trembling fury that the ban be repealed because his wife, alone in upstate New York, needs protection. Well, okay, but does it have to be an AK-47? Does a 44 Magnum, easier to carry by the way, not suffice for issuing a credible go ahead and make my day? In fact, the assault weapons ban will have no significant effect either on the crime rate or on personal security. All right? Nevertheless, it's a good idea, though, for reasons its proponents dare not enunciate. Now, here are my words here. This is frighteningly close to what Beto O'Rourke said. You're damn right, we're coming for your AR-15s and your AKs. So I'll go back. Nonetheless, it's a good idea to have an assault weapons ban for reasons the proponents dare not enunciate, which explains why the other Democrats on the debate stage almost swallowed their tongue and would not come back and say the same thing. Yes, they're coming for our guns, and I'll go back to the reading. Let's elaborate on the real logic of an assault weapons ban. It's simply, it is simply crazy for a country as modern, industrial, advanced, and now crowded as the United States to carry on its frontier infatuations with guns. Yes, we're a young country, but the frontier has been closed for 100 years. In 1992, there were 13,000 handgun murders in the United States. Gang related, probably. Canada, an equally young country, had 128, Britain 23. They always like to compare those. Ultimately, now listen carefully, this is what 1996 in support of an assault weapons ban. Ultimately, A civilized society must disarm its citizenry if it has to have a modicum of domestic tranquility of the kind enjoyed in sister democracies like Canada and Britain. Let that sentence sink in. I'll say it again. A civilized society must disarm its citizenry if it is to have a modicum of domestic tranquility of the kind enjoyed in sister democracies like Canada and Britain, neither of which are democracies. Given the frontier history and individualist ideology of the United States, however, this won't come easy. It certainly can't be done radically, that means fast. It'll probably take one, maybe 2 generations. It might be 50 years before the United States gets to where Britain is today. So understand that the goal is to disarm the citizenry of the United States. Passing a law like the assault weapons ban is symbolic, purely symbolic. Move in that direction. Its only real justification is not to reduce crime, but to desensitize the public to the regulation of weapons in preparation for their ultimate confiscation. Now, this is from a Republican right-wing writer in 1996. Its purpose is to spark debate, highlight the issue, make the case that arms race between criminals and citizens is as dangerous as it is pointless. De-escalation begins with a change in mentality. And that change in mentality starts with the symbolic yielding of certain types of weapons. That's why the AR platform and AK platform is the target instead of similar looking long guns, and certainly not pistols, because that would be too shocking to the mentality of gun owners. The real steps, like the banning of handguns, will never occur unless the assault weapon, quote unquote, is taken first, and even then, not for decades. Now, it's been 20 years since this was written. What needs to happen before this change in mentality can occur? What must happen first? And this is where liberals are fighting the gun control issue from the wrong end. What must occur first is a decrease in crime. So long as crime is ubiquitous, so long as Americans can't entrust their personal safety to the authorities, they will never agree to disarm. There will be no gun control before there is real crime control. Now, picture for a minute what that means. The intent is to have American citizens, all of us, entrust our personal safety to the authorities. What? We're going to have a cop on every corner? You're going to rent a cop and have it in your house? So, unless there is a decrease in violent crime, there will not be a decrease. There will not be a case where American citizens will entrust their safety to the authorities. And in my personal opinion, that should never happen anyway. We're our own first responder. But I digress. True, part of the reason for the high crime rate is the ubiquity of guns. The more guns, the more people use guns to do bad things. Makes sense. Which makes the argument circular and a solution seem impossible. Which is true. But gun control advocates ignore other egregious encouragements to crime at their peril. For example, lack of swift and certain retribution. For example, in the United States, 4%, and this was in 1996, 4% of all robberies resulted in time served. 4%. Tell your stick up man you can go to jail for this, and he can correctly respond 25 to 1 says I don't. So long as both the law-abiding population and the criminal classes doubt that serious crime leads to serious punishment, attempts at serious gun control will prove futile. I was having this conversation the other night, right? Follow the money. Who benefits? Who benefits from ubiquitous crime? Just follow the money. Yeah, in the end, America must follow the way of other democracies and disarm. There is not the slightest chance that'll occur until liberals join in the other fights to reduce the incidence of and increase the penalties for crime. Only then will there be public receptive to the idea of real gun control. The passionate resistance to even phony gun control of the assault weapons ban shows how far we have to go. Now, this is 2019 going into 2020 election, and the Democrats and anti-gun people are frothing at the mouth, smelling blood in the water. They absolutely believe, and this is the Democrats in the House, that they can push this through. Like a guy used to say, for me, from my cold dead hands. But you folks out there, wind this back, listen to it again, because the truth is that even Republicans believe that we must disarm civilians in America. That was part of the UN Small Arms Treaty and its standards, with a specific goal to disarm all civilians in the world. And if there were the ability to arm civilians, that would be only for legitimate purposes as defined by law enforcement or the government. So yes, they're coming for your guns. They want to change the culture of America to accept the fact that guns don't belong in the hands of civilians for any reason. But as long as there is any crime, and as long as punishment for crime is weak, because it is, that will never happen. Now, I will add an editorial comment to this that says, unlike law enforcement, armed civilians do not have the same kind of rules of engagement. We get to use deadly force when threatened. That is not extrajudicial punishment. It is not part of the criminal justice system. It is a consequence on the bad guy for doing stupid stuff. So rather than have someone who has gone through the system 6 or 7 times, been on a parole, done domestic violence, armed robbery, and all that, they get made dead the first time and they don't come back. That's 10 criminal events. That's 2 times 5, by the way. 10 criminal events that are eliminated. What does that mean? Well, more guns, less crime. Thanks for watching. Carry on.